帰ろう、リコちゃん。リコちゃん。
I'm literally gonna wait for you. And I see you're gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna like it. I'm just keep watching.
Just subscribe.
And you think the clip gonna cut right here, but it's not because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button. And the subscribe and the post notification button.
This season is gonna be a pretty important season for Jujutsu Kaisen, and that is because it's the second season. If you don't really know the premise of Jujutsu Kaisen, I'll break it down for you in seconds. Basically, they hunt evil spirits that, well, do evil spirit things. So this is the point where Jujutsu Kaisen will have to do something important, and that is to break the sophomore slump. Most of the time, anime tend to have a very strong first season because, you know, they want to make an impression on people. It's the first time that people have watched the show, so the first season is usually gonna be one of the most impactful. It might not be the best, or it might be the best season, but it's usually the most powerful season because they want to make an impression on you. But the issue then comes with the second season. The issue is that it's harder to really touch people the second time. It's hard for people to necessarily get that feeling from a second season because most of the time the first season can be so impactful that the second season just doesn't hit the same. But the second season is the most important because it decides the longevity of an anime. And you may not realize it, but if you actually think about it, the second season of an anime is usually the most criticized, and that's because after the first season, it's easier to be more harsh on an anime because the first season was so amazing that the expectations are higher, and when the expectations become higher, then people are more critical. That's pretty much what happens to anything, which is why there's a term called sophomore slump. And that is because usually the first project is gonna be highly regarded. It might even be considered the best. But the second one, because of the expectations and also because of how people are anticipating the second project, it's easier for people to be more critical of it. And in fact, maybe even dislike it more because they have this expectation. Which is why this season will be a very dangerous season for Jujutsu Kaisen. And that is because the first season was so good that it made Jujutsu Kaisen a household name. It just blew up and it went all over the place, which is a good thing, but not when you have to do it again. The issue with that is Jujutsu Kaisen is returning with a bunch of expectations, and not just expectations, but competition. The last season provided a lot of competition, whether it be Oshinoko, Heavenly Delusion, Hell's Paradise, Skip and Loafer, that Gundam show that I keep not remembering, something which I don't know. So the competition is high and the year's not over, so there could be more shows that show up that could be competition for Jujutsu Kaisen. And in it being a shonen, it also has to compete with the stigma that's gonna come up when you have a shonen, which is after the first season, people will enjoy it, but then everybody wants to know, but what's the story though? We see the action, we get the action, but what's the story? And this is something that every shonen has to fight, the whole storyline allegation. So with Jujutsu Kaisen's second season, it's gonna have to deal with a lot. With the expectations so high, Jujutsu Kaisen has to find a pretty interesting way to approach the second season. And it actually has, well, from its first season, which is Jujutsu Kaisen has a lot of episodes in a season.
Thank y'all for taking on this ride with me. Yeah. You know what? Here go 2 more for y'all.
Yeah. And this is kind of different compared to the usual because most of the time a season of anime has about 12, 11, maybe 13 episodes in a season, right? Usually it's 12 or 13. But the issue with that nowadays is that it's harder to build a connection with an anime in 12 to 13 episodes. And that is because sometimes it feels as though the story can be rushed. You didn't really get the understanding of a character or the development. You didn't see much. You just got the beginning. And you could say that that's the whole point of the first season. It should be an introduction to the anime. But sometimes with that amount of exposure in like 11 or 12 episodes, episodes, it's hard for you to build a connection to be interested in the second season. And this has happened in a few anime because of that. And I'm not gonna act like it's impossible, because there are a lot of shows that do that. Heavenly Delusion did that, Oshinoko did that. So a lot of anime can do it, of course, but if you really think about it, after the season has ended, you have to realize that you may have to wait a few years for you to get the second season, and at that point you probably might not even be that invested or even remember the anime, because there's some anime that dropped last season that people have already forgotten. But it just gets that way because every season there's so much anime that at some point you're going to lose track of certain anime, especially anime that hasn't gripped you or hasn't got you yet. So it's not necessarily impossible to do it, but it's getting a bit tricky. And nowadays, certain anime have found loopholes against that, which you can sometimes see in the first episode. Some anime have moved to the whole 40-minute or an hour plus first episode. You saw this with Oshinoko, you saw this with Demon Slayer. The first episode is borderline 2 to 3 episodes because they know that they don't have that much time to really show you that much if they've got 12 or 13 episodes. So they have to cram as much information in as little episodes that they have so that you can be invested. And Oshinoko is a good example because after the first episode, it was borderline a movie and you wanted to see the second episode. You've already watched 2 to 3 episodes, but you just didn't realize it. So some anime have a different approach to trying to grab your attention. There has been a creative process to kind of capture people's minds, and Jujutsu Kaisen is going to the classic move but with a twist, because most of the time shonen have a lot of episodes in a season, and that's because, well, generally the stories tend to be really long, but also you can't really capture everything in a shonen in one season. It's really difficult. So that's why shows like Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, they go on for so many episodes, because that was the classic move to make sure that you grab people's attention. But Jujutsu Kaisen has approached it in a different way, because this season is at 23 episodes. The last season was also plus 20 episodes. So you're borderline getting 2 seasons worth of anime in one season. And that's because the anime realizes its weakness. Because Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't really have the most craziest of stories, because they basically just hunt evil spirits, they kill them, they purge them, and they try and help people. That's pretty much it. Of course, there's more to it than that, but the story is straight to the point.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
But it knows that it's not easy for it to grab your attention within a small amount of episodes. So what has happened is that Jujutsu Kaisen gives you about 20 plus episodes, which is a good move. Because the anime is gonna be in our faces for such a long time, you'll just get accustomed to the anime. And when you start to see something all the time on a weekly basis, you start to normalize it in your life, because every single week there's this anime that's in your face. So you'll get used to it. A lot of people who started getting into anime stumbled into it, whether it was watching, well, Naruto or Bleach or One Piece on TV every day or occasionally or like on weekends. You end up stumbling into shonen because they just show up, and before you know it, you're watching them every week and you're invested in the story and what's going on, and then you eventually become a fan of the show. So in Jujutsu Kaisen being in your face the whole time, you're gonna get used to it. And because it's a good anime in terms of the quality aspect, because it's animated by Studio Mappa, you know the animation is gonna be fire. So you have an anime that's gonna have good quality and it's gonna be in your face for a long time. You could arguably say that Jujutsu Kaisen's second season won't lose as long as they have that relationship, because it's gonna tick 2 boxes already. You're gonna get a lot of anime and you're also gonna get good anime. Now you may criticize the story or whatever, but you know that you're gonna get something that's watchable. And that's important, because this season being such a critical season, that approach is gonna help it. Because like I said, with some anime that's short, as in 12 or 13 episodes, the season ends and you have to wait such a long time to see it again that you kind of forget about it. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, you're not gonna forget about it, because if you think about it, you're gonna be watching this anime for a very long time. So for 23 weeks, years, you're gonna be watching this anime. You can do the math. So it's gonna be hard for you to not remember it because you spent most of the year watching it. Unless maybe you wanna binge, but the fact that you're gonna be watching so much content means that it's gonna stick in your brain compared to something that was here for just a season and is gone. Jujutsu Kaisen is gonna overlap seasons and it's just gonna be in your face, and it can do this because it's afforded that because of how powerful it is. It doesn't have that much competition because of how good it is. Demon Slayer's out of the way, it finished last season. So which anime in terms of shonen could really compete with Jujutsu Kaisen? Maybe Bleach? I don't really know how many episodes Bleach is gonna go on for, but
nah, it ain't it. It's not it. It's not it. That's not it. I said that's not it. You get caught. Nah, that's not it, bro.
it doesn't have that much competition. So this whole approach that it's taking is a smart one because it has a combination of quality, quantity, and also story. This season is actually focusing on the story aspect of the anime because we're going back. This anime has decided to take us back and give us an understanding of one of the most powerful, most influential characters in the anime, which is Gojo. We see Gojo when he is younger. We also are getting a bit of a story of what made him the person that we know in the future, who is untouchable. You literally can't touch him unless he wants you to touch him. Well, that's what we know so far. But in us going back, we're also going to get an understanding of what can break him. We can see some of his weaknesses that we don't know because in the first season, he was already this product. So this season is going to be a pretty interesting season for Jujutsu Kaisen, and I believe that it's addressed a lot of issues that were coming, and this is only after just a few episodes. But I feel that the approach that it's taking is a pretty smart one because it's ticking a lot of boxes. And when you actually think about it, depending on how the anime ends, of course, anything can happen. But I think the worst you could get is just an okay/good anime. And the best scenario is you get arguably one of the best anime of the year. It's really just up to you if we're being honest. But I think that Jujutsu Kaisen is actually in a position where it can't lose. It's done so many things so well, but also stayed true to what it is to be a shonen because of its ability to see some of the issues that come up with the second season or even the first. It just feels like this big master plan that will lead up to this arc that is supposed to be this huge defining moment for the anime. And in it taking us back and not just throwing us into the action, which is something Jujutsu Kaisen does, it just throws you into action. It's taking a step back and allowing us to see a bigger picture of the world before we really focus on a very key part of the anime. So I think that Jujutsu Kaisen is moving in a pretty good way. I'm actually surprised how good it is in terms of a story writing aspect, and there's so many unique things about this anime that people have picked up on that even surprise me. So it shows you that this anime has a lot of depth, and in fact it's so good that it's not your normal shonen. You really have to focus. I didn't really have the highest of expectations from it, but I look forward to seeing what happens this season.